Hey, Mrparka here to review a new short film called Piety by the creators of the movie Creeps, which is a movie I reviewed a while back, kind of a splatter, really weird movie. I kind of remember enjoying that one. I thought it was surreal, a bit kind of just oddball and just batshit crazy. Made by really young filmmakers, and they had a lot of heart and stuff, and I dig that. Piety is a little bit different. It's a more serious horror film, more you know, kind of psychological deal. Essentially, what we have here is it opens with a guy with something around his face. His face is covered with a towel or a cloth, and he runs out. And eventually, it's very strange, very bizarre in the woods. And then we're cut to him in a prison. Or in a cell with another inmate. It doesn't seem like necessarily a normal prison. It's something very odd. And as the film progresses, we soon learn about his past, and it's a haunted past involving a lot of religious symbolism and things like that, and a lot of torture and suicide attempts and things like that. You realize why he's there and what he's done, and why he's so violent and strange. I like the film for the fact that it's not told in a linear fashion. I think that's kind of cool. The jumping around history. It also makes it it makes it a tad bit confusing at times. There's decent gore in it as well. I think that the gore is probably the highlight. I was impressed with this disembowelment scene. It actually looked pretty gross, to be honest. And the film is only 28 minutes long, but they managed to squeeze in a lot of stuff going in there. I do feel that there's so much religious iconography in here, and a lot of times it's kind of just, you kind of scuff at that kind of stuff. It's just, I feel like it's been done a million times before. Not to knock on anybody personally, because it's one thing that just not a personal preference of mine. A lot of times I'm burnt out on the whole thing. I feel that some people reach for the low hanging fruit of the religious kind of stuff and add in the twisted nature of it, and I think it's easy for a lot of people. I'm not saying they did that here. It doesn't necessarily feel like that. It's not like just something at the very end where like, yeah, he was raped by a priest. That's there we go. But stuff like that. But I was impressed with the kind of like crazy flashbacks. Some of the weirder stuff I thought was cool, and some of the surreal aspects are cool as well. And I like that he has a small cast. They chose a small cast and focused on these couple of characters. They didn't try to work into this amazing, huge, giant movie. A lot of times, a lot of people do that and they end up screwing up. This one was definitely focused, and I do like their prison location, how they created their jail with like chicken wire and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, there's that. It has good gore. It's got some weird things going on there. Tons and tons of religious iconography, like I said. I do feel that it is, when the non-linear structure is kind of bizarre, it does leave it a little kind of jumbled at times. And a lot of the stuff could be considered extreme for certain people. The suicide attempts, the gore here and there. It's definitely more aimed at kind of extremity stuff. But it stars Jack Scaglione, I'm not sure how to say his name, and Johnny Dickey, who's done a bunch of movies himself, also co-directed by Johnny Dickey. And it's directed by, hope I pronounce your name right, Jack Mulvanerty, something like that. Sorry about that, mispronouncing and everything. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that kind of a semi-extreme, semi-surreal kind of it's almost kind of like artsy horror to a certain extent. I think some of the camera angles are pretty decent. And I think that the story, although it feels kind of typical to me, it is kind of hard to get sucked into it. But it's kind of interesting. So yeah, it might be up your guys' alley. I think that it's a competently made film. Just not necessarily something I absolutely love. But I was impressed with the gore effects, and I was impressed with creating such an adult storyline, I guess I'll say. Although I do not really prefer that kind of a thing. I just seen it so many times, but it's always told a little different. But some people really like it. I'm Mrparka. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.
Do you realize the severity of what you've done?